Few phrases in the English language carry as much quiet authority as "my nan used to do that." I mean, come on, think about it. You can cite a peer-reviewed study, you can quote a Nobel laureate, you can reference the entire collected works of every home economist who ever lived, and someone will still shrug. But the moment you say, "my nan used to do that," everyone in the room nods. Case closed. Nan said it. It's gospel. And honestly, 9 times out of 10, Nan was right. So today we're diving into 45 life hacks, straight from the collective wisdom of British grandmothers, tips and tricks that predate the internet, predate television, and in some cases, predate indoor plumbing. Some of these are brilliant, some are bizarre, and a few of them are going to make you wonder why you've been doing things the hard way your entire life. All right, let's start with the kitchen, because that was Nan's domain. That was her laboratory, her workshop, her throne room. And the first hack is a classic: stale bread. Now, most of us would chuck it in the bin or maybe feed it to the birds if we're feeling generous. But Nan would run that stale loaf under the tap, just a quick splash of water, and then pop it in the oven for 10 minutes. And it comes out fresh. Not sort of fresh, not passably fresh. Genuinely properly smells like a bakery fresh. The water rehydrates the starches in the crust, and the heat reactivates the gluten structure. It's basically science, but Nan didn't need to know that. She just knew it worked. Number 2, cloudy glassware. You know those glasses that come out of the dishwasher looking like they've been sandblasted. Nan's fix was white vinegar. Soak them in a basin of warm water with a good glug of vinegar for an hour, and they come out sparkling. The acetic acid dissolves the mineral deposits. Simple as that. And this leads us nicely into number 3, which is that Nan used vinegar for basically everything. Cleaning windows, descaling the kettle, getting rid of lime scale around the taps, wiping down worktops, even as a fabric softener. White vinegar was Nan's WD-40. If vinegar couldn't fix it, it was beyond saving. Number 4, and this one blew my mind when I first learned it: wooden spoons. If your wooden spoon is looking a bit sad, a bit grey, a bit like it's seen better days, you boil it. Just stick it in a pot of boiling water for 20 minutes. The amount of grime and old food oil that comes out is genuinely horrifying. The water turns this murky brown colour, and you realise you've essentially been stirring your soup with a bacterial hotel. After it dries, rub it down with a bit of mineral oil and it looks brand new. Nan knew. Nan always knew. Number 5, keeping brown sugar soft. Now this is one of those problems that feels uniquely modern, but it's been annoying people since sugar was first refined. You open the bag, use it once, forget about it for 3 weeks. And when you come back, it's basically a brick. Nan's solution? Stick a slice of bread in the bag. The moisture from the bread migrates into the sugar and keeps it soft. You can also use a marshmallow, which works on the same principle, but feels slightly less dignified. Some Nans swore by a terracotta disc soaked in water, which is essentially the same idea but fancier. 6. This one's for tea drinkers, which, this being a video about British Nans, is all of you. If you've stained your teacups, and you have because everyone does, don't bother with bleach or scouring pads. Bicarbonate of soda. Make a paste with a little water, rub it on the stain, wait 5 minutes. Rinse. Gone. Completely gone. The mild abrasive action combined with the alkalinity breaks down the tannin deposits without scratching the glaze. Nan didn't explain it like that, obviously. Nan just said bicarb love and moved on with her day. Number 7. Newspaper for cleaning windows. Now I know this sounds mad. Rubbing wet newspaper on glass sounds like a recipe for disaster, but it works, and there's actual chemistry behind it. The ink in traditional newsprint acts as a mild abrasive, and the paper itself is denser and more lint-free than most cloths. Spray the window with your vinegar solution, scrub with newspaper, and you get a streak-free finish that puts most commercial products to shame. The only caveat is that modern newspaper inks are different from what Nan used, so results may vary. But the principle is sound. 8. Cold tea for watering plants. Nan never threw away leftover tea. Cold, unsweetened tea went straight onto the houseplants. Turns out tea contains tannic acid, nitrogen, and various minerals that are genuinely beneficial for acid-loving plants like ferns and African violets. The used tea leaves went into the compost or directly onto the garden soil. Nothing was wasted. Absolutely nothing. That generation had an almost pathological aversion to waste, and honestly we could learn a thing or two. Number 9. Keeping celery crisp. You wrap it in aluminium foil before putting it in the fridge. That's it. That's the hack. Foil allows the ethylene gas to escape while maintaining humidity, which keeps celery crunchy for weeks instead of days. Plastic bags trap the gas and accelerate wilting. Nan figured this out through trial and error decades before food scientists confirmed it in controlled studies. 10. Using bread to pick up broken glass. When you smash a glass on the kitchen floor and you've swept up the big pieces, there are always those tiny invisible shards lurking about waiting to embed themselves in your foot at 3 in the morning. Nan would press a slice of white bread onto the floor. The soft bread picks up every tiny fragment that a broom or vacuum would miss. It's honestly brilliant, and I have no idea why this isn't taught in schools. Moving on from the kitchen. Number 11. Putting a bar of soap under your bed sheets to prevent leg cramps. Now, I have to be honest with you, this one is probably the most controversial hack on the list. There is no scientific mechanism that explains why this would work, and yet thousands of people swear by it. Nan swore by it. Her Nan swore by it. There's some speculation about the lavender in certain soaps having a mild muscle relaxant effect through aromatherapy, but that's a stretch. My best guess is placebo, but you know what? If it works, it works. Don't let science ruin a good night's sleep. 12. Removing water rings from wooden furniture. You know those white rings you get when someone puts a hot mug down without a coaster? Nan would have killed you for doing that in the first place, but the fix was mayonnaise. Yes, mayonnaise. Dab it on the ring, leave it overnight, wipe it off in the morning. The oils in the mayo penetrate the wood finish and displace the trapped moisture that causes the white mark. Some Nans used petroleum jelly, which works on the same principle. Others used a warm iron over a thin cloth which steams the moisture out. All 3 methods work. All 3 are genius. 13, and this is one of my personal favourites, using a walnut to hide scratches in wood furniture. You take half a walnut, rub it along the scratch, and the natural oils darken the exposed wood to match the surrounding finish. It's not permanent, and it won't fix deep gouges, but for surface scratches it's remarkable. The first time I tried this, I genuinely couldn't believe it. I just sat there staring at where the scratch used to be, feeling like I'd performed some kind of dark magic. 14. Rubber gloves for pet hair removal. If your sofa is covered in cat or dog hair, and no amount of lint rolling is making a dent, put on a pair of rubber washing up gloves and run your hands over the fabric. The static charge and the friction of the rubber collects hair like nothing else. You can also dampen the gloves slightly for even better results. This works on car seats, curtains, clothing, basically anything fabric. Nan didn't have a cat, actually. She had a very suspicious-looking dog of indeterminate breed. But the principle stands. 15. Freezing candles before burning them. If you pop your candles in the freezer for 24 hours before lighting them, they burn slower and drip less. The frozen wax takes longer to reach melting temperature, so you get a longer, cleaner burn. Nan's candles lasted forever. We thought she was buying premium candles. She was buying the cheapest ones Woolworths had and just freezing them. Brilliant. 16. Toothpaste for cleaning silver. A dab of plain white toothpaste on a soft cloth. Rub it onto tarnished silver, rinse with warm water, and it comes up gleaming. The mild abrasives in the toothpaste remove the silver sulfide layer that causes tarnishing without damaging the underlying metal. Don't use gel toothpaste though, and don't use whitening toothpaste. Plain white paste only. Nan was very specific about this. 17. Using newspaper to ripen tomatoes. If you've got green tomatoes that need ripening, wrap them individually in newspaper and leave them in a dark drawer. The paper traps the ethylene gas the tomatoes naturally produce, which accelerates ripening. You can also add a banana to the drawer because bananas produce enormous amounts of ethylene. Fast forward a few days and you've got perfectly ripe tomatoes. Nan grew her own tomatoes in a little greenhouse in the back garden, and this was standard procedure every autumn. 18. Olive oil for squeaky door hinges. Before WD-40 was on every shelf, Nan used a drop of olive oil. Works just as well. The only downside is your door might smell faintly like a Mediterranean kitchen for a day or two, which personally I consider an upgrade. 19. Putting rice in the salt shaker. If you've ever wondered why some restaurants have a few grains of rice in their salt shakers, this is Nan's hack. The rice absorbs moisture and stops the salt from clumping, especially in humid weather. Simple, cheap, effective. That's Nan's entire philosophy in 3 words. 20. Using the potato water. When you've boiled potatoes, don't pour the water down the drain. Use it to water your plants. The starchy water is full of nutrients. You can also use it as a base for soups, gravies, or bread dough, where the extra starch improves texture and flavour. Nan used potato water for everything. It was her secondary currency after vinegar. 21. A damp cloth on the ironing board. If your clothes are too dry to iron properly, lay a damp tea towel over them and iron through it. The steam generated removes wrinkles far more effectively than a dry iron, and it's gentler on the fabric. This is essentially what those expensive steam irons do, but Nan was doing it in 1962 with a tea towel and a sense of purpose. 22. Beeswax for stuck drawers and zippers. Rub a block of beeswax along the runners of a sticky drawer or along the teeth of a stubborn zipper, and everything glides like silk. Nan kept a block of beeswax in her sewing box, and honestly, that stuff lasted about 30 years. Best investment she ever made. 23. Eggshells in the garden. Crushed eggshells scattered around plants deter slugs because the sharp edges are uncomfortable for them to crawl over. They also add calcium to the soil as they decompose. Nan saved every eggshell, dried them on the windowsill, crushed them with a rolling pin, and distributed them around her hostas like she was performing some kind of ancient ritual. Perhaps she was. Her hostas were magnificent. 24. A hot spoon on insect bites. This one sounds dodgy, but there's real science behind it. If you press a metal spoon that's been dipped in hot water against a mosquito bite, the heat denatures the proteins in the venom that cause itching. It has to be hot enough to be uncomfortable, but not hot enough to burn, which is admittedly a narrow window. Nan was precise about these things. She had the hands of a surgeon and the confidence of someone who had never been wrong about anything in her life. 25. Using chalk to prevent silver tarnishing. Keep a stick of white chalk in your silverware drawer. The chalk absorbs moisture and sulfur compounds from the air, which are what cause tarnishing. Nan had chalk everywhere. In the cutlery drawer, in the jewellery box, in the toolbox. I thought she just really liked chalk. Turns out she was running a sophisticated moisture management operation. 26. Bread tags for labelling cables. Those little plastic clips from bread bags. Nan wrote on them with a permanent marker and clipped them onto electrical cables to identify what was what. Phone charger, lamp, radio, television. Everything labelled, everything organised. This was before cable management was a thing. Nan was ahead of her time. 27. Lemon juice for cutting board odours. After chopping garlic or onions, rub the board with half a lemon. The citric acid neutralises the odour compounds far more effectively than soap. Nan also used lemon juice on her hands after handling fish, and on her elbows to soften rough skin, and in her hair as a natural lightener. Lemons were Nan's vinegar backup. If vinegar was WD-40, lemon was duct tape. 28. Stuffing shoes with newspaper to dry them. Wet shoes? Stuff them with crumpled newspaper and leave them overnight. The paper absorbs the moisture and helps the shoes maintain their shape as they dry. Replace the newspaper after a few hours for best results. Nan would have 4 pairs of shoes drying by the back door at any given time, all stuffed with yesterday's Daily Express. 29. Honey for sore throats. A spoonful of honey in hot water with lemon. Every Nan in Britain has prescribed this at some point, and it actually works. Honey has genuine antibacterial properties. It coats and soothes irritated throat tissue, and the warm liquid helps with congestion. The World Health Organization has actually endorsed honey as a cough remedy. Nan didn't need the WHO's approval, mind you. She'd been doing it since the war. 30. Using a button and elastic to childproof cabinets. Before you could buy plastic childproof locks, Nan would thread a large button through a loop of elastic band and hook it around adjacent cabinet handles. Quick, cheap, effective, and didn't leave screw holes in the furniture. This is the kind of improvised engineering that makes me emotional, if I'm being honest. 31. Cold water for blood stains. Never use hot water on a blood stain. Hot water cooks the proteins in blood and sets the stain permanently. Cold water, applied quickly, will get most bloodstains out of most fabrics without any fuss. Nan was very matter-of-fact about this. She had raised 4 children. She had seen things. 32. Hairspray for ink stains. Before the formulations changed, a blast of hairspray on an ink stain would dissolve it almost instantly because the high alcohol content broke down the ink. Modern hairsprays have less alcohol, so this doesn't work quite as well as it used to, but rubbing alcohol on a cotton ball does the same job. Nan's can of Elnet wasn't just for her perm, it was a stain removal weapon of considerable power. 33. Hanging herbs upside down to dry them. Tie them in small bundles and hang them upside down in a warm, dry place. The essential oils flow downward into the leaves as they dry, which preserves more flavour than any other drying method. Nan's kitchen had bundles of rosemary, thyme and lavender hanging from a rack above the range. It looked like a witch's cottage and smelled like heaven. 34. Vaseline on door hinges in winter. In cold weather, a thin layer of petroleum jelly on external hinges and locks prevents them from freezing shut. Nan also used it on the rubber seals of car doors, on garden gate latches, and on the threads of outdoor light bulbs to prevent corrosion. Vaseline, vinegar and lemon juice. That's it. That's Nan's entire toolkit. 35. Putting a wooden spoon across a boiling pot. If you lay a wooden spoon across the top of a pot that's threatening to boil over, it won't boil over. The wooden spoon pops the bubbles as they reach the rim because wood is a poor conductor of heat and disrupts the surface tension. This works. I have tested this extensively. Nan was right. 36. Using old tights as plant ties. Cut up old pairs of tights into strips and use them to tie plants to stakes. They're soft enough not to damage stems, stretchy enough to accommodate growth and strong enough to hold plants upright in wind. Nan's garden was held together with repurposed hosiery and sheer determination. 37. Bicarbonate of soda in the fridge. An open box of bicarb in the fridge absorbs odours. Replace it every month. This is probably the most widely known hack on the list, but it bears repeating because it genuinely works, and it costs about 40 pence. Nan had one in the fridge, one in the freezer, and one in each wardrobe. Her house never smelled of anything except clean laundry and baking. 38. Using a tea bag on a bruise. A cold, damp tea bag pressed against a bruise reduces swelling because the tannins in the tea constrict blood vessels. It also works on puffy eyes, which is why Nan always looked remarkably well rested for someone who got up at 5 every morning. She'd been lying there with tea bags on her eyes for 10 minutes before anyone else woke up. 39. Cling film on the bananas. Wrapping the stems of bananas in cling film slows down ripening by reducing the ethylene gas that escapes from the stem. Your bananas last 3 to 5 days longer. Nan wrapped everything in cling film to be fair. The bananas, the leftovers, the sandwiches, suspicious-looking items in the freezer that nobody dared investigate. If archaeologists ever excavate Nan's kitchen, they'll find layers of cling film like geological strata. 40. Salt for cleaning cast iron. You never use soap on a well-seasoned cast iron pan. Instead, you scrub it with coarse salt and a paper towel while the pan is still warm. The salt acts as an abrasive, removes food residue, and doesn't strip the seasoning. Rinse with hot water, dry immediately on the hob, and apply a thin layer of oil. Nan's cast iron skillet was 80 years old and had a non-stick surface that would put any modern coating to shame. 41. Freezing jeans instead of washing them. Now this one's controversial, but Nan was onto something. Putting your jeans in the freezer overnight kills odour-causing bacteria without the fading and wear that comes from frequent washing. Denim lasts longer if you wash it less. Several denim manufacturers have actually come out and recommended this. Nan was basically a textile conservation specialist without the degree. 42. A cork in the fruit bowl. Put a wine cork in your fruit bowl and it helps absorb excess moisture, which slows down mold growth. This works particularly well in summer when fruit goes off at an alarming rate. Nan always had a cork in the fruit bowl, and I never questioned it until I was about 25 years old. Some things you just accept when you're growing up. 43. Using lavender bags and drawers. Dried lavender in small fabric pouches tucked into drawers and wardrobes. Keeps clothes smelling fresh and deters moths. The linalool in lavender is a natural insect repellent. Nan made her own lavender bags from scraps of fabric and lavender from the garden. They lasted years. She gave them as Christmas presents. Everyone pretended to be excited. But you know what? 20 years later, I understand the gift. Those things are wonderful. 44. Boiling water for weeds. Instead of chemical weed killers, Nan would pour boiling water directly onto weeds growing between paving stones. The heat destroys the cell structure of the plant and kills it within days. It's free, it's chemical-free, it's effective, and it requires no equipment beyond a kettle. The only downside is the neighbours thinking you've lost the plot as you march around the front path with a steaming kettle at 7 in the morning. And finally, number 45, the Sunday roast hack to end all hacks. Putting a roasting tin full of water on the bottom shelf of the oven while your joint cooks on the middle shelf. The steam keeps the meat moist, prevents the kitchen from filling with smoke, and makes the entire cooking process more forgiving. You don't need to baste as often, the meat doesn't dry out, and the drippings don't burn onto the bottom of the pan. It's such a simple thing, and it makes such an enormous difference. Nan's roasts were legendary. People talked about them. Actual grown adults would rearrange their schedules to be at Nan's for Sunday lunch. And this was the secret. Not some exotic seasoning or professional technique. A tin of water. That's it. So there you have it. 45 hacks from the collective wisdom of British grandmothers. And here's what strikes me about all of these. Not a single one requires buying a special product. Not one requires an app or a subscription or a tutorial or a certification. Every single hack uses things you already have. Vinegar, bicarb, salt, newspaper, bread, lemons, hot water. That's the entire toolkit. And honestly, that's maybe the most important lesson of all. Nan didn't need a life hack influencer telling her how to optimize her household management framework. She just paid attention. She noticed what worked and she remembered it, and she passed it on. There's something kind of beautiful about that, isn't there? This unbroken chain of practical wisdom passed down through kitchens and gardens and laundry rooms, from grandmother to mother to daughter to whoever would listen. No patents, no trademarks, no intellectual property. Just someone saying, "Here, love, try this," and someone else saying, "Oh, that's brilliant, I'll remember that." And then 50 years later, here we are, making a video about it on the internet. History has a sense of humour, doesn't it? But I think the real genius of Nan's generation wasn't any individual hack. It was the mindset, the absolute refusal to waste anything, the deep-seated belief that there was always a solution if you thought about it hard enough, the confidence that came from knowing your stuff, from having tried things and failed and tried again until you got it right. No Google, no YouTube, just experimentation and word of mouth and a stubbornness that bordered on the heroic. So the next time you're about to throw away that stale bread or pour that potato water down the drain or chuck those eggshells in the bin, think of Nan. Think of her standing in that kitchen, sleeves rolled up, apron on, making everything work with nothing, and then do what she would have done. Use it, fix it, save it, pass it on. That's the real hack. That's the one that matters. Anyway, that's all from me. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and for the love of all things holy, use a coaster.